together. Those are things that you guys should do together. You know, it shouldn't be one person telling the other person what you're going to do all the time. Everybody should have an equal voice. Each person contributes equally to the relationship in whatever manner or whatever form that relationship takes. Being mindful of the other person's needs as well as your own. So this is an important one, it's just a good reminder to hear that, you know, we all know the things that we need to be happy, you know the things that you need to make your day go smoothly, but looking at what does this person need as well, and you know, how can I be part of making their day go well, or making our relationship a good one. And then giving as much as you receive. Okay, I'm trying to watch the time so we don't get too behind. Support. So, you know, I think we all need people that can encourage us from time to time, and just those people that we know are behind us, that are backing us up, that are there to help us through whatever we encounter. So, you know, offering encouragement when needed. I think when you're talking about somebody you're in a relationship with, it's pretty easy to tell if you know that person well when they're down or when they're having a hard time. And just being able to, you know, reach out and offer that encouragement, whether it's just a phone call to say, hey, I'm thinking about you, or spending time with that person, you know, or maybe there's something you can do to help that person out, you know, with whatever situation they're in. Being supportive of each other's goals. So, you know, somebody that you are friends with or in a relationship with may be pursuing something that wouldn't be something you're interested in, but it's still important to be supportive of that person. Because you have to remember that their goals are what's important to them. Those are the things that are driving them, just like you guys have the things that are driving you. And we all want those people that are behind us, cheering us on. So it's important to have that, and then to be that to the people that you're in relationships as well. And then encourage each other's outside interests. Very, very similar. Really, it's all just about being supporting whatever that person is, you know, whatever their dreams and their goals are.
I have a you know, with a large family, we have to communicate really well.
Yeah.
And we support and encourage each other. But going back to college, you know, was something I've always wanted to do, and he's been very, very supportive with it. I wouldn't be able to do it without him, so I'm very grateful for that. But I'm also, you know, very supportive with his work. He's been in it for 15 years, you know. But I don't know. All this is everything is that I'm seeing here is something that I see in my relationship now compared to my relationship that I had in the past. And it's crazy to see the differences in it, where you are at that time in your life.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, I know for me, I was married really young out of college, and that was not a very healthy relationship, and I have since remarried, and I'm kind of like you, like I can see the healthy pieces of our relationship. I couldn't really see the unhealthy pieces of my old relationship until I kind of got through those and looked at them. But, you know, again, some of you are, you know, have had more experience with the relationships than others, because we have a good mix of some younger, straight out of high school people here today, and some of you who have come back later. And I think it's good to share that life experience, because we can always learn from that. And, you know, maybe somebody in here who's coming here straight from high school won't have to experience a relationship that's unhealthy to realize that there are healthy ones out there. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, respect. Each person is valued for who they are and what they bring to the relationship. So we're all unique individuals. We all bring something completely different to any relationship we're in. And we need to be aware of that with the people that we're in relationships with, that they have something unique to offer as well. Treating the other person in the manner you want to be treated in. So, you know, if you don't like to be spoken to harshly, don't speak to people harshly. And, you know, this is hard. We have to catch ourselves doing these things sometimes. But just being aware of the way that you're treating people that you're in relationships with, and asking yourself, okay, if our roles were switched, would I want this person to talk to me this way, or react to me this way, or treat me this way? Accepting the other person's opinion, even if you don't agree. And we talked about this earlier, I think, as communication. But this is part of respect as well. We all have the right to our own opinion, and we can't expect everybody to agree with us or be on the same page with us. But it's just a matter of letting others have their opinions, even if, you know, you may think that they are 100% wrong. But it's still their thoughts and their opinions, and they have the right to have them. And then listening without judgment. You know, it's incredibly difficult to try and have a conversation with somebody or try and share something personal with somebody if you feel like they're looking down on you or going to react to you negatively. So just doing what we can to let the people we're in relationships know, you know, you can talk to me about anything and I'm not going to look down on you for it, because we all need those people that we can do that with. Okay, so let's see, we are at, it is 12:46, so we've got a few minutes. If you need to go to class at 1, you can leave whenever you need to go. We'll get through this last part pretty quickly. And a lot of these we'll talk about, but I just have the 8 things on here giving some tips for communication. Listen, sometimes we need to just stop talking and listen. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times when I'm talking to somebody, I find my thoughts drifting from what they're talking about to what I'm going to say next. That's so easy to do. So, you know, trying not to do that, but really being present and listening to what they have to share. Paying attention to non-verbal cues. Sometimes people say as much with their eyes or their facial expression as they do with their words. Staying focused on the topic and talking face to face. Has anybody ever been in a text conversation that has gone badly? Okay, because you don't get the facial expression, you don't get the tone of voice, you don't get if they're being sarcastic or joking over text. It can be dangerous. So just be aware of that.
That's like our
Yeah.
first rule is no more
Yeah.
text message arguments.
Yes,
Happening.
it doesn't go well. So face to face when you need to talk face to face. Okay, healthy boundaries. Explore your own interests and let the other person do the same. Respect their privacy. Know what is acceptable and not acceptable for yourself. So what are you willing to deal with in a relationship? What are you willing what do you expect of the other person to accept in a relationship? And then communicate those boundaries. Because it's great to have boundaries, but if you don't tell the other person, that's not okay with me, they don't know. So you've got to make sure and communicate those. Tips for building trust. Being transparent, so it's not living in that gray area. Well, I'm not really lying, but I'm not really telling the truth. Be transparent so people know exactly where you stand. Be a person of your word and develop self-awareness, which these are all kinds of things that we talked about already in our discussion. Tips for building honesty. I think a big one is just committing to a personal policy of honesty and pay attention to when maybe you're in that area of I'm not quite lying, but I'm not telling the truth. Or maybe you find that there are certain situations that you tend to lie in. Just be aware of those things and start making a note of, okay, how can I work towards being a more honest person in this area? Anticipate situations. If you know that there's a certain thing that you're insecure about and you tend to not tell the truth about, just start becoming aware of those things so you can work towards being more comfortable telling the truth in that area. And then the last thing I put up, something to think about is, if you have to lie about something you're doing or saying, then that's probably behavior you need to consider changing. We shouldn't have to do that in our relationships. So it's either maybe something that you need to change, or it's possible that you're in an unhealthy relationship if you can't be honest about what you're doing or the things that are important to you. So it could be that you need to change a behavior, or it could be that you need to look at, you know, why is it that I can't be honest in this relationship? Tips for accountability. Again, I think we've pretty much covered these. Admit when you've made a mistake. Apologize when you're wrong. Don't overcommit. And we're going to talk about this real quick when we get to our tips. Anybody ever said yes to too many things or doesn't like to say no? Yeah. It's hard to be accountable when we have too much on our plates. Something's gonna get dropped or forgotten. So work on not overcommitting, and then own up to your actions. Okay, tips for responsibility. The big one here is that we teach people how to treat us. So if you're willing to accept somebody being cruel to you or abusive to you, they're going to figure that out and they're going to keep doing it if they're the kind of person that would do that to you. So keep that in mind. We teach people what we will and will not accept. People don't make us feel a certain way. And sometimes people don't like this when I say this, but we choose our feelings. Our tendency is to say, well, you made me feel bad, or you made me mad, or you made me this. And that's not true. They may provide some sort of stimulus. People do things around us. We decide how we react. It can be a really hard thing to get a handle on if we're so used to reacting in one certain way, but just keep that in mind. If there's something that drives you crazy, it's your choice to let that drive you crazy, and you can work towards getting to a place where you don't react that way when that certain thing happens. We can talk a lot more about that at work sometime. Consider the whole situation. So don't just look at what the other person did or said, but what did you do or say as well? Because we all have our part in what happens in our relationships. And then stop allowing yourself to play the victim. You know, sometimes our tendency is to say, well, he did this to me, or she did that to me, or whatever it is. And then we get stuck in a place where if we're blaming everybody else for the reasons that we're unhappy, then there's nothing that we can do about it. You have to get away from that. I'm the victim and they did something wrong to me, and move on to looking at what do I have the power to change in this situation. Okay, tips for support: be enthusiastic about other people's goals, acknowledge their hard work, choose words and actions that lift them up instead of bringing them down, and take time to show them and tell them that you support them. Tips for respect: never use derogatory language, even during a conflict. Sometimes it's easy to say things we don't mean when we're mad, but we need to try and avoid this if we can. Commit to equal decision making with whoever you're in a relationship with. Learn to accept differences. Acknowledge to yourself that you cannot change another person. This is a big one. When it comes to counseling, when I counsel with somebody, we typically talk about this a lot. You are the only thing that you can change. You cannot change another person. Sometimes you can change a situation, but you cannot change another person. So you have to look at, what can I change on my side of the street? And then consider the other person's ideas and be willing to compromise. You know, we have to compromise in life. It's just the way it is. But you have to be willing to do that to make it work. Okay, so real quickly, I came up with some tips because, as we talked about at the beginning, we are all busy. We all have a lot on our plates. Most of us, if you're like me, probably tend to overcommit. A lot of you guys raised your hands and you say yes too much. So here are some things I think that are important. First is to build relationship time into your schedule, whether that's friends, a spouse, a boyfriend or girlfriend. Make that time, and it may just be a few minutes here and there, but I am in school again now too, and so my plate is very, very full. But my agreement with my husband is I have class on Wednesday nights, and I usually get home kind of late, and I leave early. So I don't really see him much all day, but our commitment is that when I get home, which is usually around 9:30, that he doesn't go to bed until I get home, and we've got 30 minutes or so where we can talk because we don't see each other that day. So that's kind of our commitment as far as relationship time, and that's just one of the little things we do. But for me, Wednesdays are my tough days. I start early, I get home late, but I know at the end of the day I'm gonna have 30 minutes, and he always makes me laugh. So I know what I've got that to look forward to at the end of the day. So build in something like that for yourself. Eliminate activities that are not enhancing your life. So if there are things on your to-do list that you absolutely dread, ask yourself if you can eliminate those. Start saying no to some things that are burdensome or just are not doing something to make your life better or move it in the direction that you want to. I don't know what that might be for all of you. It's different for everybody, but think about those things. Be realistic about how much you can commit to. And this is a tough one because just the way our world is, we all are overloaded with things to do. But sometimes we really have to sit down and say, can I really put one more thing on my plate right now? And sometimes the answer is no, and that's okay. It's hard to have healthy relationships when you don't have time to work on them being healthy. So just remember that needs to be a piece of your you've got a little pie graph with where all your time is going. Make sure you're putting a slice of pie in there for your relationships too. Prioritize your commitments. Kind of goes back to it, put down everything that you have committed to on a piece of paper. What's the most important, and how are you going to get the time in for that, or what can you mark off? Make your time with others quality time. So, maybe sitting down for an hour in front of the TV with your spouse or your friend isn't really quality time. Are you really getting to talk, or are you really getting to do something to enhance your relationship? So think about that. When you do spend time with the people you're in relationships with, is it quality time? Are you guys getting something from each other? And then remember to relax. Build some time in for that too, because like I said, we all we have crazy busy schedules and sometimes we forget that we need to take care of ourselves too. But that's an important piece as well. Alright. I know we're right on time, so if you guys have a class, feel free to do your evaluations and head on. But if you don't have class and you guys have class, if you want to share, feel free to do that as well.